Hi everybody, Reaper here to talk to you more about the ARRIVECAN app. This is a earlier testimony from Dallion and Coradex on exactly what they do and how they do it. Um, we're going to start off with Stephanie Kusti. Now it's very interesting to me that they would keep pushing this, and it's more interesting to me that they pushed it this early. I thought the first time that they swore anybody in was at that last hearing, but Stephanie Kusi goes over it pretty well at the beginning here. So we'll cover her, and then I'll go into the um, testimony from the witnesses. I think it's mostly from Dallion, but you'll get a good idea of what's going on here because it's pretty neat. And I'll stop in the middle and just kind of commentate too, just to let you know exactly what these people are saying. Now that we all know the history of this, right? So it's very interesting the way the Liberal government has all of this all kind of planned. And apparently in the testimony they say, how long has this been going on for? Has this been going on for the last 10 years? And the guy says, oh yeah, it's been going on for 10 years. So the whole time Justin Trudeau's been in, that's for sure. It probably just wasn't taken advantage of by the Conservatives. Or was monitored a little bit more, or had a little bit more oversight. With Trudeau, you got no oversight, right? So the money just goes wherever. So anyway, without further ado, let's get into it.
Yes, go ahead, Ms. Kusi.
Yes. My understanding, and perhaps the clerk will correct me if I'm wrong, is that whether individuals are sworn in or not, under parliamentary privilege, it is still contempt of Parliament to mislead the committee by giving a false statement or false evidence to refuse, unless related to cabinet confidence, to answer any questions or to fail to produce documents that this committee might require someone to produce. That is my understanding. Could the chair please clarify the clerk please
For the
clarify
people sworn in or not, under parliamentary privilege, it's still contempt of Parliament to mislead the committee by giving a false statement or false evidence, to refuse to provide questions or documents, regardless of whether sworn in or not. And then page 1081 of the House of Commons Practices and Procedures states, refusal to answer questions or failure to reply truthfully may give rise to a charge of contempt of the House, whether the witness has been sworn in or not. Is that satisfactory for your point of order? Or your question?
It is satisfactory. I'm wondering if it's historic practice within this committee to swear in the witnesses, please.
I believe the last was 2003, so it's not common.
Okay. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks. Sorry, Mr. Yao and
Now Yao and Wood have their opening statements, which I'll skip through there and go right to the questions from the Conservatives and Gord Johns, because he has some good questions in this too. Even the Bloc Quebecois lady is pretty good. She asks a couple of really good questions that make the witness answer the question, right? And that's what it's all about. So anyway, without further ado again, let's get into it.
Johns, please, for 6.
So maybe you can explain again, what is your relationship with Christian Firth of GC Strategies? Mr. Wood, can you maybe elaborate how often you do business with Mr. Firth and GC Strategies?
Yeah, GC Strategies is a subcontractor that we have done work with from time to time.
For how long?
The first contract, the first arrangement we were in was back, I believe, in 2020.
Do you have a personal relationship with Mr. Frith?
No.
Okay. Mr. Frith boasted that, a committee, this is Mr. Morv's testimony last Thursday, and he cited that Mr. Frith boasted to them that he had dirt on various senior federal public servants who are responsible for awarding government contracts. Did Mr. Frith, ever share anything like that with you, or about his connections in the public service?
I don't know anything about that.
Okay. Can you tell me about? Let me get this straight. You submitted information about Ms. Dutt and Mr. Moore to around their task authorization, And you're saying that you're not responsible because you subbed it out to Mr. Frith. Mr. Frith possibly gave you the wrong information about them, inflating their expertise. And you're saying that you're not responsible, even though it's your contract?
No, that's not what I said. I did. We are accepting responsibility. That's our mistake. We have a quality management system in place. We take these matters very seriously. In a case where we're working with a third party, is what this was. We don't engage their subcontractors. We don't engage their consultants. We have non-solicitation agreements. We would never reach out to GC Strategies contractors, and we can only accept those CVs to be valid.
Okay, so why not? Like, I guess when you see a situation like this, next time will you be doing your due diligence, given...
Yeah, Mr. Chair, and to the member, we are an ISO 9001-2015 certified company, which means our processes are certified. We have a very strict quality management system, and we are in the process right now of examining our processes.
I bet you are.
And we will be making changes.
Okay. So here's the thing. You know, does Mr. Frith come to you and say, "Hey, I've got a solution"? Oh, what's the problem? Or is it more like you go to Mr. Frith and say, "I need help with something"? Or does he come to you and try to engage you?
Yeah, well, if I can speak to, I can answer the question in relation to the Bottler AI task authorization. Is that what you're asking me?
Just overall in your relationship with GC Strategies.
Well, typically, I mean, we don't have a relationship. We have done business from time to time, but typically clients came to us, and in this instance, for the Bottler AI project, they were named in the task authorization request, and CBSA did inform GC Strategies.
So when you hire a subcontractor and they have a dispute with the sub that's subbing from the subcontractor like Bottler and GC Strategies, and there is work been done, but you've been paid for, that one of your subs has been done, do you leave that with the first sub responsibility to pay them? Or because you've been paid for the work that they've been done, like in Bottler's case, where they claim that they've done $350,000 worth of work, do you not take responsibility for that? Or do you communicate with your initial sub and say, the work's been done, why haven't you paid the vendor?
Yeah, well, CBSA, so there's a few things there, Mr. Chair, and to the member. CBSA received only 2 deliverables from Bottler AI before they terminated their contract. And in these types of relationships, we only communicate with the company that we hold a contractual arrangement with. And it's also a fact.
So they can basically stiff or bankrupt a company that's doing work for Canadian taxpayers. Basically, that sub could bankrupt somebody that's doing honest, good work for Canadians. That's what I'm getting at. Can you tell me who Patrick Van Abema is and what his relationship with you is?
Bottler was paid for both of those deliverables, by the way. Patrick Van Abema was also included on the task authorization for the Bottler AI project.
On the Bottler, any money on the Bottler contract?
Sorry, I missed part of the question.
Did you make a commission on the Bottler contract at all? And if so, how much was it?
Yep, the total value of the Bottler AI, each deliverable was worth $70,000. They submitted 2 deliverables, and Coradex and Dallion made $14,000 on each deliverable.
In terms of the Indigenous set-asides, I've got lots of questions related to this. I really value the program because Indigenous involvement and leadership in Canadian procurement is an important aspect of reconciliation. How many joint ventures have Dallion and Coradex gone into?
We have been in a joint venture since 2004. And from time to time, when we decide to respond to RFPs, we make a decision together on whether to engage in RFP as a joint venture or independently.
So how many joint ventures have Dallion and Coradex gone into that were not connected to the Indigenous set-aside program?
Mr. Chair, and to the member, I don't have that number for you. I apologize.
Could you produce that number within 3 weeks to this committee? Both how many joint ventures have Dallion and Coradex gone into, and how many joint ventures have Dallion and Coradex gone into that were not connected to the Indigenous set-aside program?
Sure.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Mr. Barrett, please, for 5.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. To Mr. Yeo, what's the structure of your business as it relates to your counterpart on the other side of the desk there? How many employees do you have?
Yeah, Mr. Chair and Mr. Member, thank you very much for the question. So I started the business in 2001.
Not looking for what year it was founded. Looking for the structure, the org chart. If you could provide that in verbal terms and in under 30 seconds.
Absolutely. So in 2001, I actually went to Coradex when I first won my first contract out of the PSAB, and we formed a business together, and they now, we basically hold, in a corporate structure, we have 2 full-time employees with Dallion, okay? But we have a shared services model that helps both companies basically, thrive as to what we're doing today.
Thank you. In a minute, we learned you have 2 employees. Dallion and Coradex were paid a combined $4.3 million. Is that correct for the ARRIVECAN program?
Approximately, yes.
And what value did Canadians receive for that $4.3 million?
Yeah. So we received approximately 20 task authorizations to deliver IT professional services in software development, testing, project management, and technology architecture and cybersecurity.
Sir, did your employees do that, or did you subcontract that work out?
We work with IT consultants, and they're subcontractors.
Okay. Do you have ongoing business with GC Strategies?
No, they are a subcontractor that we have worked with occasionally.
Was Bottler a subcontractor of yours?
No.
Are all of your subcontractors, do they all have appropriate security clearance?
Absolutely.
Okay. So GC Strategies had the appropriate security clearance always to see the material that they worked on?
I'm not sure I understand your question.
Did GC Strategies always have the appropriate security clearance for the projects that they were working on?
Contractors that appear on our contracts must have security duplicated by the company holding the contract. As such, anybody being put forward on a task authorization to any government department, including CBSA, has to have a duplication of their security clearance by that firm.
Is that
Therefore,
true?
we held the security clearance for those 3 contractors on that TA.
So did everyone at Bottler have the appropriate security clearance for the work that they did?
That's what that's what I'm just communicating to you. The three people the 3 consultants that were on that TA all had security clearance.
Okay. The folks at Bottler said that they did not have the appropriate security clearance for the work that they were contracted to do.
Mr. Chair, and to the member, we processed their clearances ourselves and granted their security clearance through our security group by CISD. Okay. In addition, they were approved by CBSA's internal screening.
So you also applied the same vetting to their CVs that included their work history. That's correct?
Those CVs were provided by GC Strategies, and unfortunately, some of the information on those CVs was incorrect.
Isn't that part of the value add that you're telling us that Canadians received for the $4.3 million? Isn't that what we paid you for?
I think the value add was what CBSA was trying to accomplish with bringing Bottler AI in to help them build an AI technology pilot.
Okay, so if Bottler built it and CBSA used it, and your job was to make sure that everyone was qualified for the work, delivered the work, and was security cleared to do the work, did you make sure all those things were done?
The consultants that we provide through our task authorizations are under the direct supervision and control of Government of Canada employees. We do not get involved in scoping the work and providing any of the deliverables in the task authorization or the list of responsibilities for these consultants.
With all due respect, we know that the information that with respect to the CVs for Bottler was fraudulent, that fraud occurred, and on your letterhead, you passed it on to the government. And you were serving as this middleman, a very expensive $4.3 million clearinghouse for this work. So you cashed your check, and in exchange, Canadians didn't get the value that they should have. That billing that was done was based on fraudulent information. And so who is responsible for that? How is it that you're able to continue to do business with the government of Canada when, in fact, we know that the billings, that this work was predicated on fraud? So it's incredibly concerning. It would be very helpful for this committee to have a list of all of the subcontractors that you do business with, because this is a very gray area. We don't know who those people are. Would you be willing to provide a list of all of your subcontractors for Government of Canada contracts to this committee?
Bottler AI was not part of ARRIVECAN or...
Sir, my question is,
$4.3 million.
Sir, will you provide the list of your subcontractors to the committee?
For what purpose, Chair?
It's a request from one of our members, and it's a simple yes or no, Mr. Wood. I apologize, but I can't add context to it.
Mr. Chair, on what contract? On what project?
Could you be more specific, Mr. Barrett, then we have to move on?
Well, I think that it would be important for the Standing Committee of Government Operations for the House of Commons to know everyone that you're using as a subcontractor, because there was fraud on this contract. Canadians should know who your subs are, because this is essential for integrity. That's our role here is to provide
Mr.
that
Barrett,
to Canadians.
Please.
So we're looking for the list of your subcontractors so that we can find out if all of your representations to the government are true.
Mr. Chair, and to the member, we have 15,000 consultants in our database right now, and 475 of them are doing work in the federal government right now.
I think.
Are you sure they're all who they say they are?
We're going to have to move on, Mr. Barrett. Sorry.
Maybe a point of order.
No,
Chair,
briefly, Mr. Janius, then we're going to move on, please.
Is there agreement that the committee orders the production of that information?
No, I don't see an agreement.
Liberals saying no. Okay.
We're going to move on, but perhaps you can get back at another round. Ms. Binola for 2.5, please.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. Monsieur Wood, votre...
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Wood, what is this address in Toronto for Coradex?
Mr. Yo is more appropriate to answer.
J'ai pas demandé Dallion, j'ai demandé Coradex.
Yes.
I meant Coradex.
So we are in the process of trying to expand. We've done very well in the area of the NCR, and through what we call Coradex Technologies. Sorry.
J'ai demandé.
I asked about this mailing address for Coradex that is located in Toronto. I don't want to know about any plans to expand. I'm asking about this address in Toronto. So it says on your website, 609 Brewer Street West in Toronto. Apparently, your neighbors are a barbershop, Tibetan Papers Handicrafts, and on the second floor, there's something else. There's no Coradex there.
We sometimes partner with a company called Core GTA.
OK. Donc,
And
vous
Dallion is
avez
also
beaucoup de
expanding in that
partenaires. Vous
direction.
avez beaucoup de partenaires, mais pas de lieu à vous.
So you have lots of partnerships, but no office there. Having said that, based on the answers we've heard today, here's my question. What was the point of GC Strategies, aside from charging more or acting as an intermediary? What was their purpose, and what did they bring to the table, and what did you bring to the table? If it seems that everyone aside from you and GC Strategies was doing the work.
Yeah. So probably a question that's more appropriate for GC Strategies. However, I can tell you and that GC Strategies was working with Bottler for over a year, marketing to public safety, to departments in the public safety domain. And so that's the relationship between those two companies. As far as our involvement, this contract was competed for and won at a significant cost in 2019. We held the contract. There are no stipulations in our contracts with the government of Canada that prevent us from doing this. Partnerships are encouraged by PSPC.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Woods. Mr. Johns for 2.5, please.
So, Mr. Wood, how many staff do you have at Coradex?
Approximately 40.
40. And what office do they work in?
We're on Somerset. We have 2 floors that accommodates about 70 employees.
Okay, but the mailing address is in Toronto?
No, that is not. Our mailing address is in Ottawa.
Okay. In terms of the staff that you have, do you have many former government of Canada employees?
No.
No, okay. It's a highly competitive industry. Is there a lot of vendors like GC Strategies that you're dealing with that are coming to you?
Yeah, from time to time, clients will ask us to consider working with other companies to deliver against a project, and it's something that occurs in our industry. But it's not, it's clients become aware of these arrangements.
Do you find them pretty unique then, GC Strategies, and what they do?
I'm not entirely familiar with GC Strategy. Yeah.
And I'm going to go back to Mr. Yeo. Thank you again for your service, sir, and I do as well want to add to that. I hope it doesn't come across wrong, but I want to talk about the allegations Bottler made around the set-aside program for Indigenous businesses. And as I stated, I highly support it. In terms of the work you listed for Ms. Dudd and Ms. Morv as consultants, has PSPC audited or required evidence from you as per the requirements of the Indigenous set-aside program? And second, would you be willing to provide that evidence to this committee? Because right now, they stated that they were hired on a contract through the Indigenous set-aside program, and they're not Indigenous. Can you speak to that?
Certainly, I appreciate that, Chair, and the honourable member. The aspect of us creating the Indigenous track on the contracting side of things allows us to hire pretty much whoever we want as far as consultants are concerned. But the Indigenous side of it and the PSAB, the PSIB side of it is an auditable and it is audited on every JV that we do. So if we do a JV with Coradex and we win a contract or a task authorization, it is audited by ISC.
Are you concerned about how this audit's going to play out?
No, not at all, because it's. I believe, Colin can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that we already went through an audit process.
Because the work they did was supposed to benefit Indigenous businesses and people, and it hasn't.
Mr. Chair,
and that is our time. If you have a very quick response, Mr. Wood.
Yeah, the PSIB program is designed to help Indigenous entrepreneurs. There are 50 other companies doing similar work under TBIPs. It's not, the program is designed to help Indigenous people build up and scale and grow their businesses. It's not meant to have Indigenous, its purpose isn't to bring on Indigenous IT subcontractors. Yeah. I think there's some confusion there.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Wood. We're entering our final 2 interventions. Mr. Genowitz and Mr. Souza. We're running a few minutes late, Mr. Wood and Mr. Yeo. I hope you'll stick with us for 7 minutes late. I'm going to be ruthless with exactly 5 minutes and we'll cut off. So if we could stick that, please. Go ahead, Mr. Genowitz.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Yao, you represent a 2-person company that receives contracts and then subcontracts, and you've received millions of dollars from taxpayers for the process of receiving contracts and then subcontracting. So what would you say you do here?
Chair and honourable member, you speak about what do I do, but I have to go back to the beginning. The amount of effort
I think you do. I'm not looking for prevarication or distraction. What is it that you do for the government of Canada? in exchange for millions of dollars?
I don't know if it's exchanged for millions of dollars because there's so much overhead to running a bricks and mortars business here in Ottawa, expenses relating to, Indigenous employees that I have, Indigenous consultants that we pay.
You don't have employees. There's two of you who are partners.
I do. Yeah, and they're Indigenous.
You have two employees. That's what you told the committee earlier.
Yes, that's correct.
What is it that you do?
What is it that I do? I manage.
What does your company do?
Well, it's a kind of so you're asking two things there, right? The aspect of what I do is an executive on the board of directors for Dallion, and looking at governance and the way that the company is run on a daily basis. And I've earned that by building the business over 23 years. So,
sir, you're a company with two people, right? So I appreciate that you have to pay office expenses and you have to manage your partner's activities, I suppose. But what do you do? What does your company do? What value does it produce? What is it that you do?
Our value add really is in the area of project management and contracts management as it relates to federal government contracting.
So the federal government gives you a contract, you give the contract to somebody else, and you're telling me that the value you add, you subcontract to someone else, and you're telling me that the value you add is in the process of project management. So what does that mean? What do you do? Because we've been told earlier that the subcontractor deals directly with the federal government in terms of many of the details of it. So what do you do?
On a daily basis, that's true. The subcontractor does deal with the task authorization or the technical authority on a daily basis. But in behind all of that is all of the plurality of, whether it's security clearances and billing and ensuring that the actual contract, we're the prime on the contract. So we also ultimately are responsible for the overarching contract management of everything that goes on.
Well, I understand that you're the prime on the contract, which means that you collect the money. But if the federal government is dealing directly with the subcontractors, and if there have been various problems along the way that have been identified in terms of the results anyways, I'll ask it again. What do these words you're saying actually mean? What is it that you do here?
Well, I will pass this off to Colin.
I'm actually interested in what you do first, Mr. Yao.
I have answered that, and I am an executive on the board of directors for Dallion, and I maintain all of the governance as it relates to the PSAB and make sure that the company is absolutely in line, in step with everything that relates to procurement and government contracting within the federal government.
But you don't actually make anything or produce anything, right? So you're making sure all of these things, but fundamentally
we're providing a service. We're providing.
But what is that service? Like if Stephanie gives me $100 to paint her fence, and then I hire Larry for $50 to paint the fence, what have I done? I've just received money and then hired someone else to do the same thing. And you can call that subcontracting. You can call that project management if you want. But I haven't done anything, right? Like you don't actually do anything for the money you receive, right?
There is a lot that we do, actually. As a matter of fact, we spend hours and days and weeks, replying to RFPs and replying to creating bid responses that cost thousands and thousands of dollars that some we win and some we lose. So, I mean, there's so much, background activity that goes on in the contracting world. It's not just a matter of, doing A and B and getting C, collecting money for C. It's not that simple. There's a lot of background activity that happens.
This is so fascinating. There's a lot of room to save money.
Gentlemen, I'm sorry, that is our time. I said I was going to stick to 5 minutes.
Well, folks, you heard it for yourself. Like, what do you do? What is it that you do? That's hilarious. Oh my God. And the guy can't tell you. You know what you do? You get the contract from the federal government. You give it to Dallion gets it. That's you. You own the company, and you're on the board of directors, probably the only director. And then you pass it. you pass it to GC Strategy. So you take your 4.3 million bucks out, then you pass it to GC Strategy. They take their 3 million bucks out. So there's 7 million just in cuts. You know, they pass it to Bottler, and Bottler makes what, a couple 100,000, 400,000 on it. Like, oh, come on, what is going on here? Holy man! Like, I know that this is done at a small level too, and in the insurance business sometimes and stuff, and but holy man, not for $4 million or 3 million for that matter. Like, what is going on here? So basically, Dallion gets the contract from the federal government, takes their cut out of it, gives it to GC Strategies. GC Strategies takes their cut out of it. Then they give it to Bottler, and Bottler gets a couple hundred, 500,000 or whatever, right? And they're supposed to be happy with that when they do all the work. Unreal. And apparently, according to the Bottler testimony, used their reputation with Canada Revenue Service as sort of a resume to get in to get this contract. So it's like, holy crap! At least it seems like Bottler's telling the truth. It seems like they are, and being as upfront as they can. And then yeah, so I think I'm interested to see what Cameron McDonald has to say next after the testimony from Mindone yesterday. That should be a very interesting interview from Larry Brock and the rest of the crew. I can't wait to see that one. That's going to be fun. Anyway, that's my wrap up for today. Take care of yourselves and each other, and as always, you make the decision.